In the third lecture of this class, we will focus on job attitudes. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to do these 4 things. Compare the 3 components of attitudes, explain the relationship between attitudes and behavior, contrast the various job attitudes that we'll learn about, and summarize the antecedents and consequences of one specific attitude, job satisfaction. In psychology, we define attitudes as evaluations or judgments concerning objects, people, or events. When I say the word judgments, I'm not using it the way that we normally use the word. When I say judgments, I mean evaluations, assessments. We make judgments about the things in our lives. Sometimes those judgments are favorable. I like my job, for example. And sometimes those judgments are unfavorable. I hate my job, for example. There are a number of different job attitudes that organizational psychologists study and measure. Job satisfaction, job involvement, organizational commitment, perceived organizational support, and employee engagement are just a few of them. There is a high degree of overlap between different job attitudes. If an employee has higher job satisfaction, they probably also have higher engagement and stronger commitment to the organization. Researchers are constantly trying to figure out different ways to measure all of these attitudes in a way that is unique and statistically helps us explain more of the variance in these attitudes. Early research assumed that our evaluations impact our behavior. Our judgments about the people we work with might impact our interactions with them. Leon Festinger discovered that our behavior can also influence our attitudes, especially when the two are in conflict, don't agree. When our attitudes and behaviors don't match, we may experience what Festinger called cognitive dissonance. This cognitive tension that we experience then motivates us to restore balance. And we might use a variety of different behaviors to restore that balance. Sometimes we change our attitude to match our behavior. Other times we change our behavior to match the attitude. If you are someone who likes to be on time and even early for most job-related events, when you are running late, it is probably uncomfortable for you. You experience this cognitive dissonance. You know it's important to be on time. You value being on time, yet here you are running late. In order to deal with that tension, you may drive or move faster, but you may also change the way you think about it. You may say to yourself, well, so-and-so was late last week. It's okay if I'm late today. One of the things that I find most interesting about job attitudes is that researchers have been able to identify 3 different components. These 3 components then map onto the ABCs of human psychology. Affect or emotion is the A, behavior is the B, and cognition, thoughts, attitudes, beliefs, judgments, evaluations are considered the C, cognition. First, we have the affective component, the feeling that is associated with these judgments. I dislike my supervisor, for example. We also have the behavioral component, the action part of an attitude. I'm looking for other work. I've complained about my supervisor to anyone who would listen. Third, we have the cognitive component of attitudes, the evaluation of an object, person, or event. My supervisor gave a promotion to a coworker who deserved it less than I did. My supervisor is unfair. In order to understand someone's negative attitude toward their supervisor, we would want to look at all three of these components: their feelings, their actions, their cognitive evaluations. Only then can we really understand what's going on. Then we can start to do the hard work of making any necessary changes. I dislike my supervisor is quite vague. It is a feeling, but it doesn't tell us much about why this person doesn't like their supervisor. The behavioral and cognitive components explain the affective component in this example. Many researchers have investigated Festinger's claims, and much of it supports this idea that attitudes influence behavior and behavior influences attitudes. Festinger also proposed that the desire, the intent to reduce cognitive dissonance depends on a number of moderating variables, things that impact this relationship. For example, the importance of an attitude. As you can imagine, when an attitude is really important, significant to our identity, it's a little bit more difficult to change. We may be more likely to change the behavior when the attitude is important or strong. The strength and the nature of the relationship between the attitude and the behavior also matter. When that relationship is strong, it's more difficult to change either the attitude or the behavior. Sometimes we aren't as aware of cognitive dissonance as we are in other situations. If the attitude is less accessible, less salient, if it's something we're less aware of, it's not going to have as much of an impact on us. We won't be as motivated to address the cognitive dissonance because we aren't feeling it as intensely. The presence of social pressures will also have an impact on how people respond to cognitive dissonance. If we are in a public situation, we may not be able to change our behaviors very much, in which case we would probably try to address our thoughts, cognitions, evaluations. The last bullet point, whether someone has direct experience with an attitude, relates to its importance. People's direct experience with an attitude will also impact the relationship between that attitude and their behaviors. When we have direct experience, that attitude tends to mean more to us. These moderators will affect whether or not and to what extent attitudes predict behaviors.